Rawlings established the National Commission on Democracy (NCD) shortly after the 1982 coup, and it employed it to survey civilian opinion and make recommendations that would facilitate the process of democratic transition. In March 1991, the NCD released a report recommending the election of an executive president, the establishment of a National Assembly, and the creation of the post of Prime Minister. The PNDC used the NCD's recommendations to establish a committee for the drafting of a new constitution based on past Ghanaian constitutions that lifted the ban on political parties in May 1992 after it was approved by a referendum. On Friday, 3rd November 1992, election results compiled by the EC from 200 constituencies showed that Rawlings' NDC had won 60% of the votes and had obtained the majority needed to prevent a second round of voting. More specifically, the NDC won 62% in the Bron Ahafo region, 93% in the Volta region, and majority votes in the Upper West, Upper East, Northern, Central, and Greater Accra regions. His opponent, Professor Edubuahin, won 31% of the vote. Former President Hilary Liman of PNP won 6.8% of the vote. Voter turnout was 50%. The ability of opposition parties to compete was limited by the vast advantages Rawlings possessed. Rawlings' victory was aided by the various party structure that were integrated into society during his rule, called the organs of the revolution. Rawlings held a monopoly over the national media and was able to censor print and electronic media through a PNDC newspaper licensing decree, PNDC Law 221. Moreover, Rawlings imposed a 20,000 cedis, equivalent of $400 cap, on campaign contributions, which made national publicity of opposition parties virtually impossible. Rawlings himself began campaigning before the official unbanning of political parties and had access to state resources, and also was able to effectively meet all monetary demands required of a successful campaign. Rawlings traveled across the country, initiating public works projects and giving public employees a 60% pay rise prior to the election day. Opposition parties rejected the election results, citing incidents of vote stuffing in various regions where Rawlings was likely to lose, and rural areas with scant populations, as well as a bloated voters register and a partisan electoral commission. However, the Commonwealth Observer Group, led by Sir Elias Clark, approved of the election as free and fair, as there were few issues at polling stations and had no major incidents of voter coercion. Opposition parties boycotted subsequent Ghana parliamentary and presidential elections and the unicameral National Assembly, of which NDC officials won 189 of 200 seats, and essentially established a one-party parliament that lacked legitimacy and also had limited legislative powers. After the disputed election, the PNDC was transformed into the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Rawlings took office on Thursday, 7 January 1993, the same day that the new 1992 Constitution came into effect, and the government became known as the Fourth Republic of Ghana. Rawlings established the Economic Recovery Program, ERP, suggested by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in 1982, due to the poor state of the economy after 18 months of attempting to govern it through administrative controls and mass mobilization. The policies implemented caused a dramatic currency devaluation, the removal of price controls, and social service subsidies which favored farmers over urban workers, and privatization of some state-owned enterprises and restraints on government spending. Funding was provided by bilateral donors reaching $800 million in 1987 and 1988 and $900 million in 1989. Between 1992 and 1996, Rawlings eased control over the judiciary and civil society, allowing a more independent Supreme Court and the publication of independent newspapers. Opposition parties operated outside of Parliament and held rallies and press conferences. Given the various issues with the 1992 elections, the 1996 elections were a great improvement in terms of electoral oversight. Voter registration was recompiled with close to 9.2 million voters registering at nearly 19,000 polling stations, which the opposition had largely approved after party agents had reviewed the list. The emphasis on transparency led Ghanaian non-governmental organizations to create the network of domestic election observers, which trained nearly 4,100 local poll watchers. This organization was popular across political parties and civic groups. On the day of the election, more than 60,000 candidate agents monitored close to all polling sites and were responsible for directly reporting results to their respective party leaders. The parallel vote tabulation system allowed polling sites to compare their results to the official ones released by the Electoral Commission. The Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, was established to discuss election preparations with all parties and the Electoral Commission, as well as establish procedures to investigate and resolve complaints. Presidential and parliamentary elections were held on the same day, and see-through boxes were used in order to further ensure the legitimacy of the elections. Despite some fears of electoral violence, the election was peaceful and had a 78% turnout rate and was successful with only minor problems such as inadequate supply of ink and parliamentary ballots. The two major contenders of the 1996 election were Rawlings' NDC and J.A. Kufuor's Great Alliance, an amalgamation of the New Patriotic Party (NPP) and the People's Convention Party (PCP). The Great Alliance based their platform on ousting Rawlings and attacked the incumbent government for its poor fiscal policies. However, they were unable to articulate a clear positive message of their own or plans to change the current economic policy. As Ghana was heavily dependent on international aid, local leaders had minimal impact on the economy.
But within the space of about 3 months, I'm proving that there's something like professionalism in politics. This is why the tide has swung to my side. Because I believe I know what is at stake, and I'm conveying the right message.
The Electoral Commission reported that Rawlings had won by 57%, with Kufuor obtaining 40% of the vote. Results by district were similar to those in the 1992, with the opposition winning the Ashanti region and some constituencies in Eastern and Greater Accra, and Rawlings winning in his ethnic hometown, the Volta region, and faring well in every other region. The NDC took 134 seats in the assembly compared to the opposition's 66, and the NPP took 60 seats in the parliamentary. The 1992 constitution limits a president to 2 terms, even if they are non-consecutive. Rawlings did not attempt to amend the document to allow him to run for a 3rd term in 2000. He retired in 2001 and was succeeded by J.A. Kufuor, his main rival and opponent, in 1996.